I'm going to give you 10 pieces of advice if you're a beginner golfer, and even if you're not, if you're a more established golfer, these 10 things should help you actually play better golf and understand the game a little bit better. So the first bit of advice is all about your clubs. Now I see a lot of people, whether they're new to the game or whether they're actually an established golfer, just thinking, well, if I buy the best equipment, that's all my problems solved. Well, that's not really the case, and especially if you're a beginner, you're only getting to know the game really, and you're only just getting to understand what clubs are. And if we think about it, a lot of the time, I would imagine as a established golfer, there's probably clubs that are sat in your bag that you don't use because you bought them thinking, oh, that'll be good, and actually it doesn't fill the gaps you need. So if you're a beginner, I would suggest maybe a half set. Look at getting a long iron, a mid iron, a short iron, one wedge, a putter, a driver or a 3-wood as your teeing off club. If you are a little bit more established, make sure you've not got clubs that are just sitting there collecting dust. Make sure each club in your bag has got a purpose. The next bit of advice, and this coming from a PGA professional, is probably one that a lot of us would all advise, is get some lessons. The best players in the world are still having lessons, so if you're a beginner or even if you're just a regular golfer at the club, you're probably going to need some lessons too. I'm not saying that you have to go out and spend hundreds and thousands of pounds of lessons. It might be, if you're a beginner, it's a good way to meet people. You could go and join a class where it's a group lesson where everyone's in the same boat, they're just starting out the game and you're learning together. Everyone's at the same level, so you don't feel embarrassed about maybe hitting a few duff shots because we're all doing the same things. If you are a regular golfer at the club, it might be that you've been struggling with your pitching. It might be that you've been struggling with your driver, or you just want to look at some putting. It's not going to get better if you don't know the reason why it's not working for you. One lesson, the pro could give you some advice, tell you why it isn't working, and then you can go and practice on it. So tip number 2, go and get some lessons, even if it's one or just a short course of group lessons. They're going to help you, they're going to set you off in the right direction, and ultimately they'll help you be a better golfer and enjoy the game more. So tip number 3, we see lots of great golfers on the television, but unfortunately we've probably not got the skills that they've got. They're going to be hitting the ball great distances, hitting shots that are super close. But what we do as amateurs, where we can get somewhere close to the pros, is work really hard on our short games. The amount of people I see beating drivers down at the driving range, but never go and work on shots from 50 yards in, where the majority of amateurs actually play from, is quite outstanding. So tip number 3, make sure you spend maybe half your practice time, or even 60 to 70% of your practice time on that 50 to 100 yards and in area. Get on the chipping green, get on the putting green. Like I said a minute ago, we're probably not all going to be smashing it 300 yards, but we've got the ability to hole a few more 6-footers. We've got the ability to save strokes by chipping it a little bit closer, and just by putting in a little bit of time and effort on that chipping green and that putting green, we're going to see that as you progress through your golfing career, if you've got a solid short game, your scores are going to start crumbling down. And if you do start hitting it a long way as well, you've only got a little shot in. So make sure you've got a great short game, spend some time on it. The next tip is all about the rules of golf. Now, if we're playing in a society, if we join a golf club, or even if we're just playing socially, but you're maybe having a little bit of a bet with your mates, you want to play by the rules and you want to play fair. And what I would suggest doing is just learn a few of the more common rules. What happens when you hit it into a water hazard? What happens if you do hit the ball out of bounds? Where should you tee off from? How many golf clubs are you allowed in your bag? There's apps like the R&A app, and a lot of golf clubs actually hand out the rule books for free, but they're all easily accessible on the R&A website or the USGA website. Just get yourself familiar with some of the more common rules. So if you were to enter a comp or you were playing with someone, you could be unknowingly breaking a rule, but you don't want to be pulled up on it. So by just knowing a couple of them, you can play knowing that you're not breaking any rules, enjoy the game and understand the game more as well. And there we go, we know a few rules and we're going to be confident of those when we're out on the golf course. If you're enjoying this list as well, guys, do remember, hit that subscribe button down below. I've got loads of golf information, free information that's going to get you better, whether it's selecting the right clubs, club reviews, golf lessons. All you've got to do, hit that button down there. I want you to get better. I want you to enjoy the game. Let's have a look at the next thing. The next one is all about your golf etiquette. Now, when we're out on the golf course, it can be quite an intimidating place, especially as a new golfer. But if you leave your bag in the right place as you're walking off a green, if you know that someone's a little bit quicker behind you to let them through, if we're just following the right protocols as we're out on the golf course, we won't be so nervous, we won't be worried about those people behind us, because we know that we're doing the right things, we'll get the right pace of play, and we won't be holding anyone up or be taking too long and not enjoying it ourselves because we're not doing the right things. So little tips like, when you get onto the green, have a look at where the next tee is and position your bag between that and the flag so you're walking directly to your bag towards the tee, as opposed to putting it where you've come from and having to go and collect it and then walk back across the green, which will take more time. The people behind you will be stood there giving it the old golfer's pose. Just little things like that, knowing where your direction is, being ready to take your shot. Instead of having a conversation about last night's football game with your mate, find your golf ball, have your practice swing while your playing partner's having his shot or her shot, and then be ready to go when it's your turn. Don't think, oh, all right, is it me? And then you've got to go through that whole process. Get ready, be prepared, and just know that little bit of etiquette, and it'll make your experience out on the golf course far more enjoyable. So the next thing I would advise is, you do want to play with people who are of the same ability as you, but also it's great to play with people who are a bit better than you, because it's aspirational. You'll see what they're doing, you can learn from them, you can ask about different shots. Don't be intimidated by that better golfer. If you're joining a club, or you're going to go and play in some competitions, or you get into a bit of society, try and play with that better golfer and see what little bit of information that you can pick up from their round of golf. Ask the questions, and also don't be too worried about playing with them. They won't be thinking too much about, oh, he's a terrible golfer or she's a terrible golfer. We're all very consumed with how we're playing with our own games, so we'd be more focused on that. If you can just go and learn a little bit from them and get better, and try and aim to be as good as the players that you're playing with, or be the best in your group, it's going to make you more competitive. It's going to give you that drive to keep playing and get better at the game. So find a group, and you don't have to play with them all the time. It might be that you play with your set of friends who are a similar level, but now and again, just try and play with a better golfer, or even watch a bit of golf on TV and just try and learn from them. See what they do when they're out on the golf course, how they take on different scenarios, what shots they hit, and that is going to help you evolve as you go through your golfing game. So my next bit of advice is, try and develop your golfing IQ. And what I mean by that is, we can learn to swing the golf club, but we also need to learn how to play golf. And a great way is just heading up to the golf course, and you don't always have to play 18 holes. It might be that you play a loop of 3. There's a loop here at Warrington Golf Course that I always used to play when I had about an hour spare. I would play 1, 8, 9, and it got me used to being out on the golf course. So when you're growing your IQ, what you're doing is understanding what you face out on the golf course. And you might need to look at the course website to see what the golf course is like. Is it a links course? Is it a parkland course? Where's the trouble out on the golf course? And when you go and play the game, instead of just thinking, right, I'm out here to hit the golf ball, have a look around you. Have a look at the features of the golf course. Try and think, well, if I play it in a certain way, how will that affect the golf ball? What will it do if I hit it on this slope? Will it bring the golf ball back to the fairway? If a green's more undulating, is there a certain spot that we can play the golf ball to? And your IQ will start to grow over and over time. The more you spend the time out on the golf course, as opposed to just beating balls at the range constantly thinking, I need to hit it properly, I need to hit it properly before I even go out there. It's a totally different scenario when we are out on the golf course. So learn in the environment that you're going to go and play in. Understand what's going out on the golf course, how different grades of grass are going to implement the ball flight? Is it going to be the fairway, the rough, the deep rough, how that affects that flight, bunkers and so on? Spend a little bit of time getting to know and understand the game out on the golf course, and you'll start to play better a lot quicker. The 8th thing that I want you to do is get some form of measuring device, whether it's a laser, whether it's a watch, an app on your phone, or even just an old course planner, or even the scorecard can be a help to you. We're in the age of information, and what we can do is actually monitor our progress. If you just go out and play willy-nilly, even if you've not got a goal of scoring, how do you know you're getting better, and how do you know what areas you need to improve on? So if you can monitor and understand the areas of the game which are your strengths and your weaknesses, you're going to be able to get better a lot quicker, because you'll understand what's going on out there. A lot of times when people come to me for lessons and I say, what are you here for? We're at the driving range. It's driver and it's irons. When I ask them how many putts they have, and they say, oh, I'm actually quite a good putter, and we find out that they're having 45 putts out on the golf course. If you got to somewhere near 36, which is even still a little high, we're going to see that you've dropped 10, 9, whatever shots it is off your score, but you wouldn't have known that because all you've done is come for a driver lesson. So monitor your progress. Get something that you can collect a little bit of data, and also when you're out on the golf course you can gather a little bit of information like the lasers or the watches. You know how far the pond is away, you know how far it is to the green, instead of just guessing when you're out there. And from there then you're able to implement a bit of a strategy and also monitor your progress and see which areas need improving. Tip number 9, and I would say this is the most important, and every single golfer needs to do this, and if you're not doing it, have a word with yourself and get better at it, and that is looking after the golf course. The amount of times when I'm out here filming or I'm out playing and I repair more than one pitch mark on a green is outstanding. Even if it isn't your pitch mark, make sure you repair them. Try and aim to repair one and another one when you get onto the green. Rake the bunkers properly. There's a proper way to rake a bunker. A lot of people wouldn't know. We'll get into a bunker sometimes when we're out on the golf course. We think, oh, how bad's that lie? And then we don't rake it because we've just had a bad experience. If you look after the golf course will look after you. Also, they're beautiful. They are absolutely beautiful when we are out here. So make sure that we tend to it. You pay a lot of money to play golf. The golf courses, we want them to be around for a lot of time, so make sure you're replacing your divots, repairing your pitch marks, raking bunkers correctly, and just have general good manners when we're out there. Take care and the golf course will look after you. The 10th and final tip, and make sure you're listening to this one. Golf is hard. It's a proper game, golf. It is the hardest game you can play, and sometimes you'll go out there and you know what? It's not going to go to plan. You will have an absolute shocker when you're out on the golf course, but there'll be times when you hit 1 or 2 good shots and you think, do you know what? That's why I play the game, because it is quality. It feels great when you hit that drive straight down the middle, or you chip one close, or you hold that 10-foot putt, but be aware, golf is hard, and a lot of the time it will be a battle out there. So stay strong, stay positive, and you're going to have a great time out on the golf course. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed those tips there. Like I say, they are for all golfers. Make sure you work your way through those and just check off, and if you're doing all of them, I guarantee you'll be playing better golf. Thanks for watching. See you in your next lesson.